In this video, I'm going to talk you through the whole process of creating a body of work from first ideas right through to exhibition and sale. I'm also going to talk about some of the financial realities of life as an artist. Now, I most often get asked questions when it comes to exhibitions about how do I get the ideas for my project? A lot of the ideas just come from my journals and my sketchbooks. They come from things that I've experimented with in the past that perhaps I'd like to take forward to become a collection all of its own. You just have to keep on going out and exploring and thinking up ideas and just see where that takes you. For me, in the project that I'm showing you today, I wanted to look at birdsong in an interesting way. Using the Merlin app, I wanted to show the birdsong in terms of the visual trace that you see on the app when each bird is singing. So now that that idea is in mind, we've got to actually think about how many pieces do we want to make based on that idea? And when it comes to this, it kind of comes down to how much time you have and also getting from that idea stage right through to something that you want to then build upon. So it's a process, and this can be very hard to judge in terms of how much time it's actually going to take. I had decided on Their Golden Song as a title for this collection of work. And that was because I had the idea initially to render the birdsong in gold and had done this in my sketchbook in the gold paint, but knew from previous work that the only way to get a really good effect is to use actual real gold. So Their Golden Song seemed to work really well as a title for the collection. And then I had to think about how many bird paintings am I actually going to do in this collection. This is where it comes down to how much time do you have. And another thing that you've got to think about is, are there materials that I want to experiment with as a part of producing this body of work? And I hadn't actually decided how I was going to do the birds. Like, I'd already decided I wanted to use gold. I wanted to do the song in gold. I wanted a pale background or a white background. And I knew that I didn't want to paint the birds. I knew I wanted to do these as drawings. I think that so there's something about the style of embellishing drawings with gold that really stood out to me as an effective thing to do. So what had to happen next was I had to decide what type of drawing I wanted to do. So I will always say, when you're putting together your ideas, is to do lots of practice drawings, developing your idea. The footage that you're seeing right now is the practice that I did for this project, looking at a juvenile song thrush. I had the photographs, and I decided to work into the drawing part and decide how I'm going to actually make the artwork. And here I'm thinking about things like, how much time is it going to take? Is this level of detail too much to produce in the time frame before the exhibition? I settled on the idea of doing a detailed pen drawing with some subtle coloured pencil over the top. I had this idea that it would be nice for it to look like a coloured pencil drawing from a distance, but when you come up close to it, you can really see the intricate pen marks. So in terms of the time, it's best to know in advance when your exhibition is going to be. I find personally that I like to have a deadline. I like to have a timeline working towards. If it's, in some time in the future, once they're all done, I will probably exhibit them. That can be a little bit more difficult to keep yourself motivated, and it can also let the project kind of sprawl indefinitely. So try and have a goal in mind if you can, especially if you're doing this as a business and you actually do want to sell your work. So after I'd finished my practices, I'd worked out roughly how long it was going to take to do each of the drawings. I was comfortable and happy with the drawing that I'd done and that I would be able to do a full collection. So I looked at how much time I had left until the exhibition and then decided to do a manageable amount of drawings in that time, let's say, not overdo it. I also had some frames left over from a previous exhibition where the work hadn't sold. So I had 8 frames and I thought I'll do 12 birds and fill in the 8 frames. So I didn't have to spend too much extra on materials. So that's something else you can do if you have old materials that you can reuse or repurpose to save yourself a little bit of money as you come up to that exhibition. Then it's a matter of just getting the work done. Each bird was a pen drawing first, and then the coloured pencil layer and finally the careful layers of gold went over the top. I've refined my gilding method based on advice from right here on YouTube, and that has allowed me to be really careful and fine with my gilding, even though the bird songs are really complex. I've been working for about 3 months on the artworks. I'm not saying I was working on them every day. I am a tutor, I run classes online and in person, and I did a whole load of other stuff, including another exhibition during the same time as this was going on. So it was probably only 1 day a week for several months that I was actually spending on the birds themselves. I'd say each picture took me about somewhere between 5 and 8 hours to complete, maybe some a little bit more and some a little bit less. Once the whole collection is done, it needs to be looked at all together, and you can judge all of the pieces against each other and see whether there are any that need a little bit more work to be brought in line with the others. We want all pieces to have the same level of detail and care, and for all of the pieces to sit well together. Finally, all of the pieces are put into a folder and taken away to the framers with the old frames. I always like to get my framing work professionally done, and it's partly because I am a professional artist. I put a lot of time and effort into the pieces, and I think it takes a professional framer to take a look at that work and really set the mount into the right place and create the perfect frame for it. I did things this time a little bit backwards because I was measuring the pieces for the frames, but usually I would just take the work to the framer and say what kind of look I would like the frame to have and let them take it from there. If you're an artist, having a really good framer that you like to work with is so important. And as a little plug, I'd just love to say, if you're in my East Devon area, I work with Southwest Arts in Sidmouth, and they have always done the most fantastic job for me, so shout out to them. I was so happy when I got my frames back from Southwest Arts. I think that a really good frame and a professional mounting job makes an artwork, which of course then makes it easier to sell. Mounting is especially important, and I chose this double mount with a gold shimmer to really bring out the gold in the compositions. So we're getting to the exhibition stage now. I've got my pictures in the framers, and I also have to be thinking about at this stage, what else am I going to sell? Now, I find it really worthwhile to have other things alongside a collection to sell. I have my books because I'm a published author. I have 2 books out that you can go and buy if you want to. You can find information about those on my website. I have stuff from older collections, nature journaling guides, little things like that I've got for sale. But I wanted new things to flesh out the collection so that this body of work was not reliant only on the sales of the originals. These are the greetings cards that I produced. I had to take the original designs and make them so that they would fit the orientation of these greetings cards. So these are 5 by 7 inch. It's my favourite size for greetings cards. And I had a whole load of them done because the thing with greetings cards like this is that they can continue to sell after the exhibition. I'd go to a lot of art societies, I have the studio, and future exhibitions I can continue to sell. So I always like to do a big run of greetings cards. So this is the little booklet that I had made. It has some foiling on the front here to kind of show what the original artworks look like. The inside here just has a little bit of writing about each of the birds that I did. It just shows the collection, talks about the process, everything you've kind of seen here, really, plus some extra poetry and some extra little facts about birdsong. So we're going into the exhibition. I've got my stuff back from the printers, I've got my stuff back from the framers, and we are about ready to go. So I had a little stand at a festival, a local festival that was running right before our exhibition. And it was a really good way to trial out everything that I had for sale and make a little bit of extra money before the exhibition started. So once the festival was done, it was time to put up the exhibition. And this is a really important stage. Putting up an exhibition is a time-consuming job. You've got to be really thoughtful about where everything's going to be placed. And it took us a little while and we had to move things around a whole bunch of times. But I think that we finally got everything looking great in the end. So before we talk about the actual opening, I think I should talk a bit about how I priced the original artworks. And this can be really difficult for an artist to work out how much to charge. The commission rate of the gallery was only 15%, so that's pretty low for a gallery. So, and I also had my frames made from a previous collection. That's not to say that I didn't want to include some money for the price of the frames, but because they were already done, I didn't feel like that was a big upfront cost for me. So I didn't include quite as much for the frame as perhaps I would have done if they'd been brand new. So when I was working this out, I decided to go on the lower side because I struggle with the idea of selling my work only to people with lots of money. I'd like it to be accessible to people, of a medium budget. And I just cannot bring myself to charge too much for them. So I aim between £200 and £325 for each artwork in this collection. And I'd worked out previously just how much money that would make if they all sold and if only half of them sold, and whether that would help me to recoup some of the costs. And it seemed like it was enough. And I kind of went with that. But I did have people saying that I priced them quite low, and it did turn out like I could have sold a lot of them more than once. So perhaps I did price them a little bit low. But I always kind of feel like I'd rather be on the lower side. And if the commission was higher in the gallery, I would have had to put them up a lot more. But I didn't need to do that in this case. I would always look at what materials you used, how much you spent, and how much time did it take you. For me at this stage, it didn't take me quite as long as it would have done years past, but my skill levels are higher. And I don't want to undersell myself. So it's trying to work out where to sit in that bracket. You can always, if you're doing an exhibition with other artists, you can ask your friends and other people who you are working with how much they're planning to sell their work for, and then see if you can fit somewhere around that area. And you can also look at other artists who have been exhibiting in the same location, look at their level of experience and how long they've been doing this for, and see where you sit in those prices. So keep an eye on your local exhibition venues. The best way that you can combat this problem is by researching it thoroughly. So we had our public view evening and it went really well. And I'm really, really happy to report that yes, in fact, everything sold. All of my originals sold. And that's the first time actually that this has happened for a collection. So I was delighted with that. 4 of the pieces went to one buyer online who, if she's watching, hello, thank you so much. And they've got a wonderful home. They're going to be much loved. And the other 4 went to equally wonderful homes in the local area. So that exhibition was all over. All the birds have flown the nest, but it's not all over for the collection. I've got the booklets, which you can buy from my website. If you're in the UK, you can have the physical booklet, and I will literally send it in the post to you. But if you're overseas, there is a digital download of the booklet. So if you'd like to see this work in more detail and support me, there's a link in the description to actually buy that booklet digitally or physically. So please do. It really, really helps me out. Okay, so time to get a little bit real now about all of this. It's time to come down to those financial realities. And it's always a little bit scary to go online and talk about the finances, but I think it's really worth it. I think it's really worth showing people just how it pans out with these collections, because it always looks so good. Oh, I sold a whole collection. I have a membership. I've got an online. I'm doing YouTube. But I think some of the reality just doesn't quite live up to what it looks like from where you are, from what you see. So let's go through it. The sales at the actual exhibition, excluding all of the rental and the commission, that was all taken off. So I didn't really see much of that. That was about 1,300. Sales outside of the exhibition, so that's sales off my website of the booklets and the pieces that sold from places not in the gallery or not associated with the gallery, that came to £1,925. So that gives us £3,225 of money that came in. So if we then take away the initial framing and printing costs, we get down to £2,675. And that £2,675 is what I made or have made so far as a result of doing this collection at all. The problem that I had is that money came into my bank account and it went straight out again about 5 days later. And that was because we had some roof repairs on our house about 2 or 3 years ago. And we were completely taken for a ride by some cowboy builders who came and replaced the entire roof, but they somehow managed to make everything so much worse around the chimneys. And in the last winter, when all the floods were, we basically had water pouring down the sides, like the inside, like I guess the outside edge of the chimney from the outside, but like not down the chimney is what I mean. It kind of down the side of the chimney into our roof space. And that's caused a whole load of problems in the upstairs of the house. And so what we ended up having to do was pay another builder to fix the damage that was done by the original roofer. And we could have taken that other roofer to court, but I just didn't really have the mental ability with my anxiety to actually cope with the idea of taking them to court. So I never actually saw the money for this exhibition. I saw it in the sense that I don't have to take a bank loan out to do the work, and that's really good. So for everyone who did support this collection, it was amazing because it meant that bank loan didn't have to happen, and so we're not more in debt right now, which is fantastic. But I kind of wanted to say at the end of this video really that it's not selling collections like this, it's not being an artist that is the main part of my income. And it's not actually where my passion is, okay? My passion really is in teaching people nature journaling, in sharing nature journaling and sketchbooking and art, and trying to make it open and accessible, and to be a teacher, and to be a teacher that is encouraging people to really get out there and create, preferably outside in nature. So that's what I actually do. And doing these like little sales and things, they're just extra on top of that. So I would just like to say that I work on this YouTube channel quite a lot, and all of basically what pays my actual bills is my Nature Journaling Circle membership and the website. So it's those courses on there, it's my annual and monthly membership for all of my classes. That's what keeps me going, that's what pays the bills. And I just love interacting with all of you nature journalers out there who enjoy my classes, enjoy my teaching, and want to support me. I also have some other stuff available on my website, the Golden Song booklets, and also loads of guides and nature journaling stuff. So thank you so much to everyone who does support me. I really do need it. That is what pays my bills, and that is what keeps me going. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'll see you in the next one.